I feel like life is always trying to help you become more of you. You know, like it's like first time it's gonna tell you like, yo, if you're gonna cross that road, look left and right, and then you're not gonna listen. The next time it's gonna send a car and it's almost gonna hit you, yabo. Like, yo, look left and right, and you're still not going to listen, yabo. And eventually, if you keep on avoiding the universe and God literally speaking to you through people, experiences, eventually you'll get hit by a car, and you'll probably come back as a rock. I don't know.
Like the idea of non-pseudo representation, which is to have black males or to have anyone from a minority group in the decision-making levels of leadership, because as much as there's a hierarchy to leadership, there's like executive decision-making, then there's the sub-decision-making, then there's the operational workers, and then when people, especially at UCT, when they push representation, they sort of like put black people or black males in the operation level. So you still see them as leaders, but they're carrying out something that was decided by the executive people. So that is.
It's a podcast. It's a podcast. Network Varsity Unplugged. Never for never Mogasi. Your host is Stevovo. Sirmguj. Stevovo-Mavovolase and TWISTA.
Boy, Sirmguj, I remember what mama what Kumi. She was like, Nyana, Funeka Uzitembe.
Zitembe. Chesa when I wanna it's your boy Stevovo-Mavovolase and BP and GP. Benegan, Gamara Country, Haliti Barcelona. You know what time it is.
You know what time it is.
What it do, what it do.
Oh, yo. Hey,
which one is this
one? Which one is that one? But
hey,
we don't have a yo.
Hey, what fit?
What happened? How are you?
Yeah, do you wanna break the news?
Okay, I think as it's fair for us to start, because you guys can obviously see that there's a missing person.
Yeah.
So I think it's fair for us to just start and tell you guys that due to unforeseen circumstances, TWISTA has made the decision to leave the podcast.
Yeah.
But it's also like still part of the fam. Like he's our boy.
Yeah.
Some episodes will be shot by him. He'll be the camera guy. But that's
he left
like
the podcast.
It's not even a reshuffle though. It was just like a personal decision to leave the podcast.
Yeah.
Maybe if we have a guest like later on, we'll invite him as a guest and then he can share his side of like why he left the podcast. Because also don't want to say that he left because we think it's A, Y, and Z, A, B, C. I'd like for him to come and tell, because he also has an audience, bro. Like even if you check the comments, there's no, if like we have 20 comments, like at least 3 of those comments are going to be directed to what TWISTA said or to how people feel about him being in the podcast. So I think he needs to do something for those people because he represents them.
Yeah, your fans, bro.
But yeah, TWISTA, you have fans in Fana. If you want to come back,
I do feel like there's someone missing.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah, it's wild.
How do you feel about it though?
I feel like it's gonna do something to the dynamic, because like I'm usually sitting here, now I must sit here, and also like whenever I watch a podcast, I realize how like the subtle gestures or like him sitting here and just being himself adds to the podcast. Like even when he doesn't say anything, like there were moments in the previous podcast where you'd say something and you'd look at the camera and do this. Like that adds to the entertainment vibe of the show. Like we might be speaking, but like sometimes what we're saying is not even entertaining, but he comes in with the entertainment element.
Minus a billion what aura.
Aura points have drawn. No,
crazy.
Yeah. How do you feel about it?
Hey, what bora, man. Nah, it's I feel like I tried speaking to him about it, like tried to convince him otherwise. But then you have it's life, and then like it's I think like it's a decision that is important to him, and as a friend I had to respect it. But okay, I understand if it's gonna make you happy and that's what you feel like you should do, then go ahead with it. In as much as I'm not happy with it, but like I have to respect his decisions as a friend. Yeah. So that's
also it wasn't gonna be counterproductive had we spoken him back into the podcast.
Yeah, it's not gonna be the same.
Like if he's gonna come back, it must be out of his own will. You sound like Julius Malema when he was saying to Floyd, there's still a position for him. No matter what happens, but now TWISTA didn't leave us any other podcast because we are the biggest podcast in the universe. Speaking of biggest podcast, did you see that podcast?
Hey, Baba.
What's the name of the podcast?
South African student what? South African best university something.
That's the name of the podcast.
Yeah,
my
it's
guy.
the title.
Wait, is that the title or the name of? You know how we are.
It's the name of the podcast.
My guy, next time we're gonna give you tips now. As the real biggest podcast in UCT and in the university space, take tips. You wait for people to give you the title. You can't just. It's like the Trevor Noah joke he made when the British were trying to colonize India. And then they were like, "We are Great Britain." And then the Indians were like, "Who made you great?" Like,
Yeah.
you can't just come to us and tell us you are great.
Which one is that one?
And also, if like our views are not like that, but like if you come to the greatest podcast and you have like 22 views, bruh.
It doesn't make sense. They
over
do have
6
the
weeks.
equipment though.
Yeah, they have the facilities.
They do have the
but
equipment.
but yeah, guys, man, like if you guys can watch this podcast and see how we do things, so that possibly your views can grow. But
It's
shout
a
out to
beef
you guys.
also.
Like you're creating like a podcast space within the
Yeah.
within the university. That was pioneered.
We
by
needed
yours.
competition.
Yeah, I mean we were too relaxed. Guys, you see now we're uploading every Saturday because we saw that those guys are doing
Pushing.
something. Yeah, they even had the president of the SRC.
Bruh.
But we had him first.
Wait, was he our third? Was it like the
I
third
think he was
episode?
our first guest, third episode.
Oh
yeah.
shit.
Third episode.
Type. Shout out to Klamulo, bro.
Shout out to you, my guy. He calls himself a village boy.
He's no longer a village boy
He
now.
is.
He's a city boy now.
No, he's a village boy in the city. You know?
Oh shit.
Yeah, he's a village boy in the city. Cause when
Hey,
you
bro,
say-
I heard that nigga, bro. Like, he's skiffy, man.
Kamulo. He's leadership, that one.
He's a player, that
Leadership,
guy.
that one. Don't call him a player, he's leadership.
Oh, he's leadership, man.
leadership,
He
yeah.
plays well.
Yeah, he plays well.
Crazy.
But yeah, today's conversation,
Imposter syndrome.
it's a bit of a tricky, not a tricky one, but like it's quite a sensitive one because you obviously have to reflect on your experience and then like sort of like speak about it like that.
Yeah.
What has your experience been? Or maybe let's start with, you know how we always like with starting with defining terms and what they mean for us. Let's start with your understanding of the term
Imposter syndrome. Yeah. A Reese has a song. It's called K.I.K. or something. I don't know. It's like from his new mixtape. And it's like he's just an imposter. I feel like he explains it so well there. But in like how I'd explain like imposter syndrome, it's like you got like when you like let's say you get into a position of leadership or just getting higher like up in the status, like you doing something new that you've always wanted to do. But because like it's more or less it's sort of a new environment.
Sure.
You feel like you don't belong there, like you feel like you're not enough, like you have this negative belief systems, like and negative thoughts, that are constantly perpetuating the idea that you're an imposter, like you're not supposed to be there. So I feel like that's what imposter syndrome is, and it's very common among people who are very good at what they do. Like people who are like crazy talented, intelligent, they have imposter syndrome more than people who are unskilled.
No, for me, I agree with everything you say, but I don't think it's like really, well, not I don't think, but for me it would also apply in situations where, like it's not really just about elevating in life, like it can be literally in all phases of life, right? Like if you think about it, like you can have imposter syndrome when you step into a new relationship. That's not necessarily elevating,
shit.
it's just like, I like when you say like entering into a new environment. That's more applicable for me because like, as you were saying, it's often people that are good at what they do. But then what also interests me is that like, what are the, because you mentioned systems, what are the
You're
systems?
good at dating, so.
At dating.
Yeah, great. He was talking about relationships, so I'm saying you're good at dating, so does it shire you too?
I think I'm a good partner. Like I think that's like because of of my moral standards. Yeah,
Okay.
Like I wouldn't go intentionally hurt someone or.
So you've never had imposter syndrome in a relationship?
I've had imposter syndrome before a relationship. So I would meet a
Oh.
girl and then I'm like, okay, Flip, this is what this girl's like and this is what they want. So I'll try and match that, but because of the imposter syndrome. Because I felt like if I go as Uvile, then I'm not gonna be
Okay.
like qualified, But yeah, you see that's the type of imposter syndrome where you feel like, Flip, So imposter syndrome is not really when you already in the environment, but like you perceiving yourself in the environment can also start like that process of feeling like the imposter syndrome. Because if you're going to university and you've heard things about university, as much as you do get that metric that says you are qualifying to go to university, you look at your background like, flip, this thing is not for people like me.
That's real.
That's also part of imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
What do you think causes people to like, because you mentioned systems, like systems within an environment. What do you think those systems are that cause people to experience imposter syndrome?
Yo, bro. I feel like most of it, like, it's just internal, bro. Because what I've come to realize, especially since you're mentioning like coming to university, I feel like that's where like it's very common. Because like you're literally coming from home, high school, you get here, it's a totally different place, yeah, bro.
Sure.
So I feel like it's a thing where it's internal on top. Like it's like if you don't have like that self-confidence within you, you walk into a new place and you think like you have to sort of stretch yourself out to fit into that place. So I wouldn't say like the things that are external that are causing people to have imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
I think it's like it is totally like I'm a focus. I think it's you, like you. If you don't have the self-confidence, if you don't really believe this is for you and you end it, that's when like the negative thoughts come in, and because like it's something that keeps on escalating and keeps on happening, eventually it becomes concrete and it's imposter syndrome, So I also think it's very common, like a lot of people have it. So
yeah. I think for me it's a mixture of internalization and what happens within that particular environment. Because again, if you take an example and look at like the university or the academic space, like there's certain expectations of how you should present as an academic.
Real.
Like, you should speak like this, you should write your academic pieces in this way, this is how you should think. You literally told that as a UCT graduate, this is how your thinking should be. This is how people should see your thinking. And when you, especially as creatives, like when you get into the environment and you're like, no man, I'll do this thing differently. And then, there's this confronting expectation that this is how you should be. It might then lead to an imposter syndrome, because like you're gonna feel like, flip, if I'm not, because what also happens is that everyone does the same thing and everyone does it the exact same way. So if you're the only one that's like, man, I would have done this different, you're gonna feel like, am I even worthy to be here?
Yeah, that's true.
Because then also the people that are telling you that this is how things are done are people that are doctors, associate professors, people that have had experience in the field. Wow. So when you come as Tanzania and you're like, occupational therapy, and then they tell you that, hey, this has been studied, if you can't just come and. But then my thing is, again, whoever started that thing was a human being from a particular context. So how are we now not supposed to come with our own experiences on top?
So real.
Yeah, I think just to touch on my experience, like how the concept of imposter syndrome is crazy. Like sometimes the accolades that you get in life that lead you to a particular environment, which leads to you experiencing imposter syndrome, are like you're going through life just as Steven, as your authentic self, and then you get these accolades, and then when you get the accolades, you put in specific environments because of, as you say, going up levels of life, and then you just start experiencing that. And then an example I can make, like if I remember in high school, throughout my high school life, right, like I wasn't intentional about, you know how in high school you know that when you grade to grade 12, there's leadership position, so you work towards that. Now I was just doing things that I like I played rugby, I played cricket, I did debating, I did drama, and someone from the outside would look at that and say, yo, Ufile is trying to get to head boy, for example. Now I was just doing it because I enjoyed them. And then I was also like fair in academics, like I wasn't that bad. But I knew that there were guys that were far better than me in academics, for example. And I think the guys that were better than me in sports, they are floppy that they were not good in academics.
No, it's not balanced.
Yeah, when I saw they make it very balanced.
Fair.
So then when I was head boy, I started feeling like flip. But I think Gush could have been a better head boy because of his academics. And then I was like, that like really tripled me for the first few weeks of me being head boy, because I was like, I saw other people that were worthy of being head boy because of their academic what. So that's why I'm saying there are systems in place that like make us believe that this is how you should be presenting. Because in my head, a head boy was someone that was supposed to be in top 2. So there was a certain expectation that I didn't meet that informed how I felt about myself as a head boy. That was imposter syndrome.
And that's very deep also, because like it's like there's.
Oh yeah, also guys, I was head boy. Shout out to me.
Shout out to Sirmguj. I know, when I was head boy.
When you are,
I go can see there's no head boys, bro. Like it's crazy, but like I feel like it's a very, I don't know, it's a very deep conversation, imposter syndrome, that like even putting it in a box or like, yo, you're talking about imposter syndrome, it sort of feels, it doesn't feel I'm sorry, it doesn't do justice to the thing, because it looks like, oh, it's just a feeling, I'm sorry, oh, it's just this, but it's something that's very deep, I feel like I was having this conversation like with a friend of mine a few days ago, because I was just not feeling like I was going through my own things, and like I called this friend of mine, and I'm like, yo, bro, I feel like the way I've been sort of moving is not I feel like when I'm in the certain spaces, I sort of tend to make these self-destructing decisions about my life, and like when I'm within this sort of spaces, I make more positive decisions about my life, and I'm a person like who believes in like self-empowerment, I have dreams, ambitions, I want to feel good, I want to be able to make other people feel good, but yeah, so I was not feeling liable.
Sure.
I woke up that day and I just felt this, like heaviness in J, and this void inside of me, and I was like, this like practices that I've been doing, to try to reduce like my anxiety or whenever I'm feeling down. So it's like, okay, let me take deep breaths, let me meditate, so I just sat alone for like 3 hours, just listening to my thoughts. And yeah, so this is getting out of hand. Like it's a lot of stuff that I've been bottling in, and like it's all coming out, and I called this friend of mine and I'm like, yo, I'm not feeling I feel like whenever I'm in certain environments, I tend to make reckless decisions, like self-destructing decisions. And when I'm in certain environments, I tend to make more positive, more empowering decisions, And by environments, I mean like, places with people,
Can I interject there?
Mm-hmm.
That's why I was saying like there has to be a conversation around like, because you mentioned 2 different environments, and one environment being like you being able to make better decisions in one, and you being making disruptive decisions in one. So that tells me like there's a sort of like social norms within each environment that lead. It could be social norms, it could be how you expect it to be, it could be a multitude of factors that lead you to different experiences. So that's why I'm like, maybe it's important to then have a conversation around those systems or those let's call them norms that are established in those environments that create the experience of an imposter syndrome.
That's so real. That's so real. But then, all of that again, it's like it's perception based, because in as much as it is those environments that make me feel bad, it's my perception of those environments. So it might be that the people around me in that particular environment are okay with me being whoever I want to be, It's just that whenever I'm there, I just cannot be myself, to the fullest extent. So I'm having this conversation with my friend, and then she tells me like, yo, it's like we've had this conversation before. I'm like, oh, we did? And I remember we actually had this conversation before, but then you then go back again and like you do the same thing again, and then you're gonna feel bad, and then you're gonna want to have that conversation again, yabo. And she's like, you have to make the decision. At the end of the day, you are feeling what you're feeling, yabo. And that's the only thing that matters, yabo. It's like, when you make a decision, make sure that decision, it's totally centralized around how you're going to feel about it, because only you're going to bear the consequences of that particular decision, you know. And I feel like that explains like imposter syndrome so well, because it's like whenever you're gonna try to do something new, there's always gonna be imposter syndrome. Sure. So imposter syndrome is not necessarily like a bad thing, guys. It's like, it's always going to be there, because if you're gonna try something new, there's always going to be that element or those thoughts that are like, you're not good enough. And that's why DJs was like, yo, fake it until you make it, because it's sort of a character that you're trying to build or move towards, you know? So there's always gonna be a sense of like, hey, I'm not this person. But as you give it time and you keep on doing it and doing it, eventually you get there. Because I also feel like what's very wrong with the mindset of today's world, you know, like, or the world in general, is the idea of who I am, you know. I feel like we've built so much concrete and held on to the concept of, nah, but it's me, it's who I am. And then it's like we overlook who you can become also.
Or who you are meant to become. And I think part of what like causes that is, I was listening to this other podcast where the person was talking about like the difference between your job and your work. Yeah, I think we just hyper focus on like the job, like being an occupational therapist, being a doctor, being an engineer.
Yeah.
To such an extent that we make those things who we are.
Yeah.
Well, and those, like, imposter syndrome then is bound to feed off that.
Yeah.
Because there are different people that are going to present differently. There are different people that are going to think of different ideas. And then because of where they are, their status of life or their experience in that profession, you are bound to feel imposter syndrome, which is not necessarily, I liked how you say, because in my head, like, it had a negative connotation to it. So I liked when you said it can have a positive side, because if you are aware of, like, okay, flipping, if I'm in this environment, this is how I feel. That's part of like imposter syndrome that can lead to a positive result. And I think I'm gonna bring in then because before we started shooting, the cameraman for today was talking about how in the different environments that you're in, you can learn something. Do you wanna just share what you were saying?
Sure. It was a matter of like self-introspection for me. Now that you've identified that, okay, in this space I take these certain disruptive decisions, then, and I don't like this about myself. Then when I'm in this other space, I take like progressive as well as productive decisions about myself. Have you put yourself in a position where you say, I want to regress from what brings out the worst in me, and I want to concentrate my energy towards what brings out the best in me? Or have you been this dynamic person who has been allowing the imposter syndrome idea to creep in every environment that you're in?
Yeah, that's
so it's an idea of like, because we're experiential beings, you go through an experience. Do you learn? I think what I'm understanding from the question is, sure, you experience imposter syndrome and you learn certain things about yourself in certain environments. Do you take those learnings, and then in the new environment you're like, okay, flip, in that environment this is what happened, so this is now I'm going to tackle the new situation?
I think like I think all of this, you know, like disorders or like you know, issues, you know, like issues of the mental, issues of the soul, I feel like they are all subject to one thing, which is, are you who you are? Are you who you are meant to become?
Yeah.
I feel like the one role that, you know, we all have, or the one thing that we can like conclude, you know, like in this universe or in this world, is that each and every single one of us is born to remember who they are or who they are meant to be. It's just naturally there, like where you feel, and then from the food that you're going to eat, the music you're going to listen to, the shoes, you know, that shirt that you saw there, that dog that you want to pet, it's an element of you. There's something about it that aligns with your energies and who you are. And I feel like life is always trying to help you become more of you. You know, like, it's like first time it's gonna tell you, like, yo, if you're gonna cross that road, look left and right, and then you're not gonna listen. The next time it's gonna send a car and it's almost gonna hit you, yabo. Like, yo, look left and right, and you're still not going to listen, yabo. And eventually, if you keep on avoiding the universe and God literally speaking to you through people, experiences, eventually you'll get hit by a car. And you'll probably come back as a rock, I don't know. But then it's like, what I'm getting from my life right now, the point that I'm in, is that everything is forcing me to become who I am, who I'm supposed to become. And the more you avoid that, is the more you're not going to feel now about yourself. Which is, I think, like Jim Carrey like explained it very well, and he's such a creative, and it's like, the word depressed, it means deep rest, like your soul wants a deep rest from this character that you've been trying to portray so much. It's like, bro, this is not me, I can't do this no more. But because you're not listening, your soul has to be in pain. So I feel like the wrong thing about these things like depression, anxiety, and imposter syndrome, we look at them as bad things. And once you look at them as bad things, it becomes a negative loop and a negative cycle. It's like you are suffering from that thing, then you are suffering from judging yourself, from suffering from that thing. So the suffering just becomes induced. So I think when you are depressed right now, you're feeling imposter syndrome, that's a good thing. Like, it's a good thing because it's time to, like Siva said, it's time to self-reflect. It's time to, even if you don't know who you are, at least you know who you're not. So it's minus a lot of things, Jay.
I think a question that I have now is then, because all these things, like if you look at depression, anxiety, imposter syndrome, to some extent they do limit how you function.
Yeah.
And with my brain saying, when humans are a functional being, like we live off doing, how do you then, because it's very easy to say, look at it as a learning what. It's very easy to say that until you are hit by imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So I guess then our role, I guess I'm answering my question. I guess our role in this podcast is to say, sure, we understand that like anxiety, depression, imposter syndrome might hit you, but it's also wise to know and understand that you can take away learnings from that situation.
Yeah.
Because sometimes what happens is that, as you are saying, I'm depressed, this means X, Y, and Z about myself. Kandi, that means like you must learn something about yourself, but outside to how, because even the things that you say it means about you are going to be things that are defined by society. So if society says if you are depressed, you must be wearing black, you must be what. So now the moment you wear black, now the moment
people are gonna think I'm depressed.
The moment you wear black, you're gonna think you're depressed, and this is what it means about you. You must, you must just deviate from your norm. Kandi Stephen is saying it can just be the opposite as well. Like it could be a deep rest where you take time off to reflect and see, like, because also what happens is that thing of you get 10 sums right and then the 11th one you get wrong, and then you hyper focus on that one, forgetting that you've done 10 things
exactly.
Right. So
or compliments even, like people, like 50 people will tell you you're very good, amazing at this, and 3 dumbasses are gonna come and say, yo, you're such a fuck up.
Yeah.
That's what you're gonna take.
Yeah, so it's also important to like acknowledge that, Flip, I'm going through this, but look at those 10 compliments and say, Flip, this is how it made me feel, this is what I can think about myself.
Yeah.
And I think like just to make it, link it back to academics, like I remember like when I was doing my first year of clinical work, I would get like good marks for client interaction, like for my sessions. And I'd be like, nah man, these people probably feel sorry for me or what. That was like, that used to mess up my mind a lot, bro, because I was like, how am I getting such good marks, bro?
But you're not feeling
it's crazy, and I know it's crazy that you're getting good marks, but you're like, they probably know I'm from Bokas. It's like crazy things like that. But I just had to learn that it's because I'm being authentic in my therapy.
Real.
And that's something that you can't like not see, right? Like if someone is being authentically themselves and taking the theory and applying it to themselves first and then to help the clients. Like, I mean, even if you're a supervisor that doesn't like a student, like if the student is embodying theory as it should be, you can't not give them the marks that they deserve. So what imposter syndrome does is like, hey Flip, I'm wearing these green scrubs, it's a kokasi, I'm not supposed to be here.
Yeah.
But you bring that person from kokas, because when I do my therapy, it's mostly in like places like Kailicha, what. So I do understand to some extent a bit of the context. So that tells me that even a boy kokas can become an occupational therapist, because if I can deliver that in Kailicha, in places like Kems Bay as well, it means that there is space for people about kokas. Yeah,
Ish, you said before that when you are a UCT student or you are to become a UCT graduate, there is a way in which you are expected to think, and there's a way in which you are expected to deliver your academic intellectuality into society.
Sure.
You know how they unleash human potential. Now, there's a case that you just made over here that you really didn't feel like you deserved what you got, especially from your clinical what.
Sure.
And it's a case of you were doing exactly the right thing that was prescribed or what you needed to do, and you were doing well in it. You were unleashing that human potential, but you internally you were thinking differently, that no, this doesn't feel right. Have you done anything to challenge how society expects us to behave? Have you done anything, or have you attacked stuff or approached stuff differently now that you know, oh, the system wants me to operate this way, but this is not what makes me feel content about myself? Have you done anything counteractive of that?
I think the only thing that I can say I have done is like writing about things as they come up in practice. So part of like the main thing that in occupational therapy would lead to an imposter syndrome is because of like how I present as a black male within that field. And I say that because it's dominated by white females. Yeah, well, so when you have black male, you are part of the minority. Yeah, well, so you tend to assimilate to how things are done by females, and which sometimes does not really coincide with how we think as males. Yeah, well, so what I've started doing is thinking about how like that element of representation is important to sort of like change or tip the scales to balance out the influence of the two different genders and identities. Because understanding is that if there's if the field is dominated by white females, and then all the thinking that happens is from the majority, so everyone is going to have to do what like the thinking is. So I've started talking about like representation and I think I've said it in one of our podcasts, like the idea of non-pseudo representation, which is to have black males or to have anyone from a minority group in the decision-making levels of leadership. Because as much as there's a hierarchy to leadership, there's like executive decision-making, then there's the sub-decision-making, then there's the operational workers. And then when people, especially at UCT, when they push representation, they sort of like put black people or black males in the operation level. So you still see them as leaders, but they're carrying out something that was decided by the executive people. So that is the term then, pseudo-representation. But if you have those people at operational level, you put them in executive, they have input, and then that's going to infiltrate on how the operational leaders work, and infiltrate on the people that aren't even on the leadership hierarchy. With that, in occupational therapy, it's a very westernized degree. Yeah, and you see that in how individualistic the therapeutic approaches are. And when you think of the African context, where doing is like a collective thing, like if you think of anything that you do as an African, it's always with or for people. Yeah. So those are concepts that haven't been explored in occupational therapy. So if you have people, black males in those conversations, it's going to start something different. I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I think something that I can say I've started doing is speaking more about representation and the importance of it. Yeah.
Type.
Yeah.
Respect,
I've written about it as well.
Respect. I even see it like I feel like with you, like that's one of the things that I really admire about you, because even like here in Rest, like being a support and like how you sort of move, it's like you pour your soul. Actually, you pour your soul into everything that you do, and I feel like that's a really nothing.
I think what he just said is just too much. It's too gigantic for the podcast itself only. What he said is so valuable, not only for the sake of views, like for society in general, and how the standard of leadership should be like.
Real. So yeah, big ups, man.
Yeah, we're working. It's all a collective effort. Like I speak like this because I experience you guys, and you guys contribute to that thinking.
Speaking about that, on the idea of imposter syndrome, I recently just learned, or like came to the realization I've always sort of covered this, but like now it's like, oh,
Yeah.
oh, that. Okay, Gav, like when you meet someone, yeah, you never knew this person, and like after you meet them once, you start seeing them everywhere. Like they just start coming up in jail,
Yeah.
and you also like out of everyone in the whole universe, I had to know a guy by the name of Sive, I had to know Vila, and so I had to meet all of these people, and we had to be at this point in time, at this exact moment, we had to occupy this space together in the universe. What are the chances? Like from, like thousands and thousands of years ago, dating back to the ancestors, what are the chances? It had to be like that, And I'm like, this then simply means that everyone that you're meeting is literally you, or there is an expression of you. There's a part of you that only you can only experience that. They can only experience that part of you when it's just the two of you, And I feel like it goes back to what I was saying when I was saying that everything is always trying to help you become more of you, And if you find yourself in a very rough space, on a imposter syndrome, or you're depressed, or like you feel like you're lost, there's no sense of purpose inside of you, which is very important. I think it's important to change how you look at things, We can never change things, but like we can change how we look at things. And I feel like that's very important. You want to look at things in a way that's going to be progressive for you.
Sure.
And it starts with you not feeling sorry for yourself. Like you need to acknowledge what's happening. And by acknowledge, I mean acknowledge. I don't mean shaming and judging yourself. You're just acknowledging that there's an issue, but you are a human being and you're supposed to learn. And it's all about experience and learning. And I'm saying this from experience because like I feel like I've been battling with imposter syndrome ever since I came here. Sure. It's like I came here and I came across a realization that I'm actually a creative, and I'm a creative because I did creative things and it felt like I was not an imposter. Like whenever I do creative things, I'm surrounded by creative people. People who can authentically express themselves. That's what I think of creative people. I feel alive, and I feel like it gives me a sense of purpose, and I want to do that for other people. So yeah, ever since I came here, and studying mechanical and mechatronics engineering third year, like from my first day in class, bro, I felt like this is not me. And so why am I studying what I'm studying? And all of it was based on imposter syndrome because I was trying to impress my community, I was trying to impress my family, I was trying to impress everybody else, but deep inside my soul was rotting. Like literally my soul was rotting. And I'm like, bro, I can actually invite to class. I'm going to do good. And so I'm going to put in the hard work. I'm going to share the calculus there, the maths and everything. I'm probably going to get the degree, get a house. Everything is going to look now, make everybody else happy. But I'm not happy. Yeah. I literally feel sick inside.
Yeah.
And I had to make a very difficult decision, which is like a decision that I'm confident about now. For as soon as next year hits, I'm dropping out. I'm literally dropping out of uni, and I'm going to do things that are fulfilling to me.
Devil's advocate.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned earlier on in the episode that the difference between your job and your work. Do you think to some extent your job can be something that acts as a vehicle to your work?
Your job can be something that acts as a
vehicle to get you to doing your work or what makes you feel fulfilled?
I think it's like a thing of I'm a very divergent person, to begin with. Okay. So I cannot be. It's either growth or death with me. And it's something I had to learn throughout my whole life. It's I have to be deeply immersed within that particular thing.
Sure.
and I try. Yeah, I'm a very divergent person. Like I can't be like lukewarm and like it's years and years of experience, and I did try that. Like I did try to. Oh, you know what? Try to find the balance. Try to do this, but then there's more people like me out there on top. Like and like I look at those people, I look at the things they do, and very successful on top. And I'm like, yo, this is so me on top. And I learned that we create our own world. Like we have the power to create our own world. And not even like on a you've made it on a like very big level. On my everyday life, it's like the more I follow the inner voice, like with simple things, that the more I follow my happiness, like yo, I invite you to the store and there's that voice is gonna come, oh, buy your friend this thing, like do something like this, something positive, go and do this, go and do this. It's like the more I listen to that voice, I see myself going to places and opportunities coming up. I'm attracting things literally in my life, getting calls from certain people, and I can cover like, oh, this is going somewhere, okay. But the way I want to live my life, or the way I want to be remembered, as someone who lived in the moment, someone who was present, and it's like I don't think I want to make it in this system the way it is, because I have a system that's now for me, and which is the system of being content and being at peace with myself. And I feel like that's very important, because I'm someone who has always wanted to help people, and I had to sit down and decide that what's the best way for me to want to help people. Like, am I going to become a doctor, which is very crucial, go out there, make change? Am I going to do all of these big things? And I came to the conclusion that the best way to help people is on an individual level. Like, it's like literally the best way to change the world is on an individual level.
When you say on an individual level, do you mean like to start changing you?
To start changing you and start changing individuals per se, instead of, like I can address like, so like I can become a politician, for example. Yeah. Like that's not on an individual level, that's like on a mass scale.
My thing is, Brandon, I think like the analogy that I can use is when you like a spy. When you aspire, you from a different so let's use the example of Clarinas and Avenue. You know Clarinas, Rochester and Avenue. If you were to be sent by Rochester to be a spy at Avenue, you assimilate now into the environment, you get to understand how they do things, because you're reporting to Roch, you get to understand how they do things. It gives you much more leverage if at any other point you need to do something for either of the two residences, because you know the culture, you know the ways of doing at Rochester. You also know the culture and ways of doing at Avenue, because you've assimilated to them, you've made them believe that you're part of them. So with the helping thing, that's why I was asking the question earlier on, like, do you think your job can be something that helps you to get to your work, or to get you to where you're supposed to be? Because you mentioned that the way you want to live your life is not within the systems of how things are, and I 100% get that. And I think the flop with the system is that's why Imposter thrives so much in this system, because there's like certain things that are made ideal, and then there's certain things that are not made ideal. And the crazy part of it, especially if you're looking at creativity is a non-ideal thing to do in this environment. But if you look at the impact that creativity has, like during COVID, for example, people were living because of entertainers, because of content that was being produced by people. But there was still an ideal thing to do, was still being a doctor. Doctors were helping, sure. Engineers were engineers helping during COVID? But you get when I say ideal, I mean like those work things that like engineering, doctor, what. But if you look at arts, no one is like really focusing on that. So I think my question is, if you want to help people, don't you think you are the best person to do it if you still exist within both environments? because then you bring them into, let's call your environment the light, because it's something that no one has seen. So when you're saving those people, you're not saving, but when you're helping them, you are helping them and still living them in that, because you of the understanding that you shouldn't be in that environment. So are you helping them and still staying and still having them stay there, or is it a matter of you helping them and then you bring them to the other side?
I think if you're both drowning, like you better make sure that you're not first.
You have a life jacket on.
Yeah.
But that's what I'm saying. By
It's
you actualizing the other environment, you do have a life jacket. So that's why I'm sort of like asking.
No. But like then the question is based on whose standards also.
Okay.
Because like I feel like the only standards that you're supposed to meet is your internal standards on top. Like it's like you can do certain actions on top, like, and those actions can be attributed to success. But like it boils down to what I was saying, but at the end of the day, it's how you are going to feel inside of you. And then I know me doing that is not gonna make me feel nah.
You going into that environment.
Me going into that environment is not gonna it's just something that's not for me, like something that's not aligned. Like you've had stories of people who graduated, they had degrees on top, they invite to span, and then like all of a sudden one day they wake up, they quit their job, they go there and like he starts a crèche and he starts teaching like kids on top. Because this thing, it's very spiritual, bro. It's like the name of the game is find yourself and be who you are, bro. And I understand like it's very security and like playing it safe. It's a nothing, and I really do admire that, though. But there are people who are meant for that, and then there are people who are creative, crazy creatives, like myself, like, and I feel like that's what I'm meant to do. Yeah, well.
Okay.
Yeah, man. So like it's like that, like, and I feel like it's a decision along like obviously it's not a simple decision. Like there's people along like I'm obviously going to disappoint, but in disappointing them, I feel like I am appointing myself into a position of leadership, because I don't want to vie to people and tell them like, yo, be yourself, do that, then I'd be an imposter. I want to do it. And I'm giving myself a year, bro, like literally giving myself just a year to go out there and follow the inner voice. And if that doesn't work out, like that's me being realistic now. If that doesn't work out, I'm just gonna vibe back to school, bro. So it's more of since I was born, I feel like I'm gonna have a year of literally being myself, at least. And learn and see like what life holds for me. And yeah,
I think that's dope, man, because it speaks to what we've been talking about, like being authentic and potentially having a different perspective, a different experience rather, of the imposter syndrome. Because I think what I take away from the conversation is that imposter syndrome has had a negative connotation attached to it. But I've come to realize that through being authentic and through being reflective, you can then make the experience of imposter syndrome. Because by our definition is that like it's something that you experience when you go to a different environment. Like because you're changing an environment, some things do have to change, and part of that change in the environment is you potentially experiencing imposter syndrome. But how you can make it a more positive experience is through being reflective and through being yourself, because through that you can learn from your previous experience and then see how you can use what you've learned in those experiences to tackle the new environment. So I think it's just like what we've been saying. I think Sive mentioned like being reflective and objective about being reflective in each and everything that you do, and just something that we always preach in the podcast, that just do you, bro. Because like if you try to replicate things that are done by people, it look coward. Like and if you do you're gonna be comfortable with any decision that you take, be it leaving school or be it continuing with school and using school or work as something that will lead to you fulfilling your destiny.
And I think one more thing, especially when you are like confronted with such a critical thing, especially on your social sphere or your interpersonal sphere, is of being in a group with people who actually really care about you and want to see the best out of you coming out. So because most of the time when we are subjected to pain, when we're subjected to discomfort, we tend to isolate ourselves. And I think it's very important for you to have that great support system out there that's going to be supportive of your decisions, that's going to sit down and listen to you. Because as much as you can do the self-respect reflection on your own, it's also crucially important to understand that the decisions that you take as a person, they directly affect your loved ones, the people that you care about the most, and not necessarily like make them part of the decision making process, but also like give them an ear or like some awareness in terms of what's going on throughout, so that like Liverpool, you never walk alone.
You really never walk alone.
Yeah.
Sonny, last words?
I think last words for me, man, guys, like, I think it's something that I've realized with growing up as well. Like, we sometimes very hard on ourselves.
Yeah.
Like, we especially in our 20s, like, there's a concept called self-compassion that you can only, like, okay, so it's derived from compassion, but you can only practice compassion to other people if you are compassionate about yourself. It's like, think about how harsh we are to ourselves when we do things for the first time, and that also is perpetuated by the systems of being a UCT student, that you must know everything, you must get, so your brain is very active, so you must be able to learn things. Think about like the first time you learned how to drive a car. Maybe for some people it was easy, maybe for some people it was very difficult, you couldn't understand how to clutch and change gears, but that was only because you're still learning. And without self-compassion, going car out, you think you'll never be able to drive a car. And you just need to know, Bana, I'm still a learner and I'm still developing. And as much as society will put constraints in terms of success and define success for us, it's very important for us to define our success, that by age 20, if I want to be a university student, or by age, now if you're watching this and you're matric, if your plan is by age 19 you want to be at varsity, and that plan is not influenced by society or by anything else, it's just your plan, that's a very good plan to have. But if your decisions are informed by society, it's a very dangerous one, because society is very dynamic and complex and it changes each and every day. We might have COVID tomorrow, and the new norm might be that you might be matric at 20. So now
Elon Musk robots might
Elon Musk robots might take your job. Now you must have to. So as long as you're going to be content with your decision, guys, like it's really the key.
Sive, any last words?
Zitembe, chief.
I remember what my mom wanted to give me. She was like, Yana,
Zitembe.
It's very important, especially when you're taking decisions. Decisions can be good or can also be bad. The most important thing is you acknowledge them and you actually have trust in them. It doesn't can be bad, but if you show it some support, if you show it some compassion, it can actually turn out to be a good thing, because it's got a big heart backing it up.
Bro.
Thinking from you, Jack.
Yeah, last words, I'd say like, it's not a destination, it's the process. That's number one. And like Uvile said also, that you have to fill your cup first before you can fill it for other people. So you feel me? All of us are healing. All of us are relearning. So be patient with yourself and learn to love yourself. And all of us are most definitely going to die. So don't waste today for a future that's not even guaranteed. It's a life experience, and it's just meant to be experienced. Walk on it like you don't know anything, like you literally don't know anything, and you realize how beautiful life can be. Yeah.
This was a very deep conversation, guys. Like, I hope you guys really enjoyed it. We were just exploring our thinking and our insights, and I think I enjoyed it quite a lot. But yeah, guys, from me, Sirmguj and Stevovo and
Twist
and
listen,
But yeah, guys, Tango is thank you. Sure.
just
Please, my dog, I don't pretend it. I don't even switch, my dog, I don't regret it. Que level Hamudimo and my family. I also wanna thank all my enemies. You really owe me no apology. You showed me I can make it by any means. Now I'm flying high, making memories. Now I'm changing lives with this melody. Niggas want my songs, it's a remedy. Abudi told me I'm a prodigy. RIP Abudi, hope you proud of me. R.I.P. a booty, hope you proud of me. R.I.P. a booty, hope you proud of me. Sure it is.
Namotsara ungani, yeah, magangwa yimenjani. Lafela vishngana ngani, osita mwana man. Lafela vishngana ngani, osita mwana man. Game ya kusungula mara lang singwa the pep, yeah. But she's a legend in the field, I feel like bad. Got it all with so skip, flow in the suske. From the black to blue ink, family will like get them in my shit. All innocent, I got a treasure with a map, I own my shit 100%. Look at my bitch, magnificent. Shit is undecided, my people been divided. Conglish combat, never turn into a subject. But one bago, tell me like a new go for drop a project. And every time I make a speech, I sound like I'm rapping pro black.
I had to go for the one on check. Tonight I'm gonna see them feeler. Whoa, pull up in the city, one feeler. Ayy, been a legend since I was a fetus. Whoa, pull up like I'm just in the Bieber. Whoa, wearing veggie jeans and some sneakers. Ayy, on some Kanye West, not Adidas. Whoa, pull up in the club, let my Jeter. Whoa, pull up with the shorty from Ibiza. Ayy, Lomdana uya biza señorita. Ayy, sipping dope wine like I'm Jesus. Whoa, Mufasa in the game, you know my Simba. Whoa, niggas get me cross, I'm like Jesus. Ayy, Colisi with my pen, Gabasia. Ayy, my vision is too big, I'm a dreamer. Ayy, hater go let's side in one seater. Ayy, my energy don't lie, one feeler.